That is, by the way, something that I do. I go through people's recycling and make sure it's right.
Yeah, so are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Amazing. Okay. So Marie, how have you been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I've been good. A few mental breakdowns here and there, but chugging along. But yeah, I think I should kick this off with a sustainable fail, because over the last month, I think I gathered quite a lot of it.
Go on then.
And the one that I chose for this week is, so I started off the year with quite a lot of dentist appointments, which the reason for that could be a whole sustainable fail in itself, but we're not going to go there. However, every time I go, they're nice enough to gift me a small bottle of toothpaste. I am very broke. So for the past month, I've been using the small bottle of toothpaste. And because I've been to the dentist so often, I've got like 5 small bottles of toothpaste that I've been just using up because
that's like a budget hack almost. Yeah. Just go to the dentist and get free toothpaste.
Yeah, it only accompanies with like €100 appointment, but at least you get a toothpaste.
The least they could do.
But yeah, and so I had to wait until my dad visited me last week so he could buy me toothpaste. That was like my thing, which I don't think it was the most sustainable thing to do, to use like 5 bottles of mini toothpaste.
I think that almost kind of started the podcast. I remember like the biggest thing we would voice note each other on is, what do we do about toothpaste? Because it tastes like, I think we'll do an episode on this, but we've tried so many different toothpaste between ourselves and we always report back going, this tasted awful and I don't think this is cleaning our teeth. Honestly, one of the biggest pain points of both of us is toothpaste.
It is. Toothpaste is like one of the jumping off points of this podcast, and it also was one of the jumping off points of my very large dentist bill. I mean, the pandemic did not help either because I wasn't able to go to the dentist for about 2 years. So there's a lot of factors. But yeah, toothpaste is a big debate between us. And if you know, or if you're a dentist who wants to come on the top podcast and talk about
that would be amazing. Please,
toothpaste, please let us know. I really want to talk to a dentist.
For your dental health and for your toothpaste needs.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
So I'm very similar. I feel like I've gathered quite a lot of sustainable fails in the last month. I think the most recent one I was talking to you about, actually, which I still feel guilty about, especially as we've done an episode on this. It was really warm in the UK the other day and I was like, I'm going to break. I just need a milkshake or some sort of cold drink. I should have prepared something. I didn't. And I went to this place that sells like artisan food and they kind of preach about sustainability. So I thought, I'll get a milkshake from them. They're doing something with their packaging, and they made me this milkshake and they put it in just standard plastic cup with a plastic lid. But don't worry folks, they put a paper straw in it, which I think I slurped twice and then it disintegrated. So I was walking around going, I feel so guilty, I shouldn't have bought this. I'm gonna have to down this before I go back to work because I don't want people to see me with this. I preach about sustainability. So I sat down and just downed this milkshake, which I had to take the straw out, drink, got major brain freeze and just shuffled back into work. And then I messaged Maria and said, I feel so guilty, why have I done this? So yeah, that was kind of my sustainable fail, which, you know what, I could have got around with just not having a milkshake, but there you go.
No one's perfect. Paper straws are just not it. They're not. I had a mojito over the weekend and it also was like 2 sips and it was gone. They're not the
answer. No, they're not at all.
Especially with something clumpy like a milkshake, that does not work.
Honestly, it was 2 slurps and then that straw just clocked out. It had enough. And then downing a milkshake without a straw was quite difficult because it's quite thick. So yeah, don't get a paper straw. And you know what? I could have put my metal straw in there, but as we all know, I lost it and they never gave it me back and I'm still really upset. But shout out to my boyfriend's mum because she bought me some new metal straws because she saw how upset I was, which is really sweet. So shout shout out to Henry's mum. Thank you.
Oh, that's really cute. This is kind of a perfect transition to the topic of today, because you said the cup was made out of plastic, and the question is, could you have recycled that?
No, you know what? I don't think so. And especially as there was like a lot of residue at the bottom of the cup. And because I needed to go back to work, I just put it in the bin. And that was another reason I felt incredibly guilty. So I don't think there was any way around that at all.
Putting it in the bin was the right choice for the reasons we're about to go through. So we might as well dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Two Girls, One Reusable Cup, your sustainable support group, the podcast all about navigating the disasters and delights of living a low-waste lifestyle in your 20s. I'm Marie, and as always, I am joined with the lovely Beth.
Hello.
And today we're talking about recycling, which can be like a real minefield. Rules may depend on where you live. Some plastics can fall into a gray area. It is really tricky to navigate recycling and know what to do properly. I want to remind everyone that don't work in the recycling industry. I am just spent a lot of time on the internet researching this stuff and trying to present this information to you as best as I can. So hopefully I haven't gotten anything terribly wrong, but we'll see how it goes.
As you said, recycling's an absolute minefield. It's such a grey area. Does anyone know? Does anyone know how to recycle? I don't know.
I watched a lot of videos and read a lot of articles, and I still don't think I know the answer.
Sorry, guys. Cut the podcast here. We don't know the answer.
We don't know. Podcast over.
Bye, guys. Thanks. Follow us on social.
So anyway, I just want to start off by asking, so how does recycling work where you live?
You know what? I really, really don't know, because you're completely right. Sorry, guys. It works by different areas. When I lived in the city, we had food waste caddies. There was extra things that they introduced. And then I moved to a bit further out of the city, and this side of the council doesn't have any of that. So yeah, I'm kind of a bit in the dark, if I'm honest with you, and the information's not very clear. Sorry, very helpful.
But do you have a recycling bin like in your household or?
Yes. So I live in a flat, and we have two big communal recycling bins outside, and they have like a bit of information on them, but it's basically like cardboard, glass, that kind of thing.
So you put everything in one bin?
Yes.
This was also how it was when I lived in the UK. So this is called single stream recycling or mixed recycling.
Okay.
And it is when you put all your recyclable materials, cardboard, paper, glass, plastic, all in one bin. And this is where sort of the problems start to develop, because it's all in one bin. People don't really pay attention to what can be recycled or what can't be recycled. They just throw it all in one. And it also gives you the sense of feeling like, oh, I'm doing something right because I'm recycling. And this also coined a term called wish recycling, where you're trying to recycle something that you think can be recycled, but it actually is not. And
you're so right. The amount of people who have gone, hey, I've got this, where do I put it? And we've all kind of gone, I think you can recycle it. I don't know. And it is wishful thinking, which is, it's really bad. It's not clear.
No. So here in Portugal, we operate on a dual stream recycling system where we separate our recyclables before we putting them in the container.
Okay.
So here we have a separate container for plastic and aluminium that go in the same one, then paper and then glass. And what is also really handy here is that all our stuff that we buy in the groceries is color coded. So we just follow the stickers and put it into the recycling bin.
That's such a good idea. That makes it so much clearer, because at the end of the day, we're quite on it with this kind of thing, but we can't expect everyone to fully look into how to recycle things, especially if you're on the go.
Yeah. And it's also of course, only products that I think are either manufactured in Portugal, or because stuff that's more from foreign imports or brands that are sold in other countries, they don't have the sticker either, because they don't know what kind of recycling system Portugal is. So there's still stuff that falls in that gray area where I'm not quite sure. This is also where my knowledge ends. I put my stuff in the recycling bin. I see them collected at night. These big trucks here in Portugal. Most of the recycling is underground, so it's quite interesting to see how they lift all this stuff out.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's really, because you have all this bunch of cardboard, and you see this this small bin, and you're like, how is this gonna fit? And then you open it and you realize it's just this massive hole into the ground.
You know what? That's post boxes in the UK that I recently found out. It was all viral on Twitter that they are embedded into the ground, and they lift the post locks up, and like you said, there's a bit underneath. It's underground. It blew my mind. What are they hiding?
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, so I'm guessing dual stream recycling is better than single stream recycling because it's separated.
It is in theory, but the whole thing is a bit wishy-washy. And that's the thing, like the containers get emptied and I actually don't know what happens to it. How it usually works, paper, cardboard, and glass usually get recycled locally in your like local area at your local recycling center, and aluminium. Okay. But again, that can depend on where you live. And it is, of course, plastic where the biggest problems lie in the system. It's the main area I'm going to focus on. Otherwise, this is going to be like an over 3-hour episode.
Stay tuned.
Because I hate to bring everyone down, but the recycling system is very, very broken.
Like me.
And yeah, it's a mess. So I, of course, always like to learn a bit of history and look into it and see how we actually got to this point. Plastic started gaining popularity around the 1950s. There were already at the time concerns about the plastic permanence because people have noticed that this is a very durable material. So what do we do? So all the plastic executives got together and decided to come up with a plan of how to make plastic more sustainable. Spoiler alert, there isn't one.
Oh, thanks.
So rather than creating a real solution, they knowingly created a system that they knew was going to fail.
Oh, wow.
So essentially, the whole plastic recycling system is built on a lie.
Exposed.
So, because in theory, you can sort and melt down plastic and reduce its impact on the environment. But there is a catch, and there's the one reason why the plastic recycling system is so broken. And that is because it's not profitable. Money makes the world go round.
Oh, capitalism.
Capitalism, exactly.
It's a running theme in this show. Oh, capitalism.
There are essentially different values of plastic. So there's negative value plastic, which is the ones that get either incinerated or sent straight to a landfill. And that is plastic, like that's most commonly plastic bags.
Okay.
The plastic that doesn't have very good structure. Then there is high value plastic, which gets recycled immediately, which is usually type 1 and type 2 plastic. I will go into more detail about the different types of plastic later on. But the biggest problem where it lies is the neutral value plastic. The plastic gets sorted into bales and sent across the world. And that is usually plastics types 3 and 7. We cannot talk about recycling without mentioning China. China, up to 2018, used to take all of our trash. So what would happen was that we would put our plastic in the recycling bin. It would get sent to a center to be sorted. And then it would be put into bales, loaded onto a container ship, and shipped all the way across the ocean to China. And they would deal with it.
So not only is there transport emissions for actually making the plastic in the first place, then there's so much transport emissions actually then sending it to get recycled in China. That's crazy.
And as I said, the system worked until 2018. Out of sight, out of mind. Put it on a ship, load it all the way to China. However, around the end of 2017, China essentially threw all the system up on its head and issued a ban on nearly all imported plastic into the country. They said they don't want to handle the world's trash, which makes sense. One of the reasons they cited of this is, of course, public health, because these bales, in a sense, are hazardous because sometimes people would throw stuff into their recycling that wasn't recyclable. Another reason was that sometimes there was plastic even the recycling plants in China couldn't handle, so they would end up burning it or dumping it, causing the Chinese government to pay to get this cleaned up. The Chinese government also subsidizes most of the healthcare in China, so if they were also paying for healthcare, so these bales were causing a health hazard. So what was happening, essentially, like these small companies in China were turning a small profit by recycling our plastic, but China as a nation was actually losing quite a lot of money. So they had enough. The China solution was essentially a band-aid, but now that's gone. And this is where I generally don't know what's happening anymore, because we had this system and now it's gone. And now everyone is scrambling to try to find a solution. So we are still shipping shipping our plastic away. This time mainly to Malaysia is the one that's now accepting all of our trash. And some of the reasons cited for this is they know how to handle it. They don't. Malaysia does not have the infrastructure like the same as we do to handle our trash. It is still a problem. And also, eventually, Malaysia, and I think they starting to, because I think they're also starting to set up import bans, but I'm not exactly 100% sure. But they're going to realize the same thing that China did. That
just going around in circles.
Is a health hazard, and it's not profitable, and they're losing money by doing this.
And is that why, so for example, the UK doesn't recycle?
Exactly. It's not profitable, and the UK does not have the infrastructure in place to recycle plastic.
I think this is very, like, how cheeky is it to send all your stuff over to another country because you don't think it's profitable? I think cheeky is an understatement, but that's the first thing that comes to my head. That's really like, oh, we're not making money off this. Let's get someone else to do it.
Yeah, as I said, not money and capitalism, what the world is based on. So, and yeah, as we said, sorting, transporting, and melting down existing plastic is very expensive. So to put this in comparison, in 2017, virgin PTA plastic cost about 54 cents per pound. Recycled PTA plastic cost about 63 cents per pound. And also, recycled plastic is a much lower quality. It degrades as you try to recycle it. That's where the problem lies. It can never be profitable. Another thing is, it is rare that a recycled material gets recycled into its original point. That a plastic bottle gets recycled into another plastic bottle. Usually gets recycled into a bench or a flower pot or something else. So that's also another problem where it's always something different. It's never the original point.
So then we're still using virgin materials to make bottles. It should be we're recycling the bottles to make more bottles, and it's just closed loop.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes no sense then.
Well, it's not closed loop. Exactly. It's not. It's not closed loop, and it should be closed loop. And that's also a big problem where it lies.
So sorry, why don't they recycle it back into a bottle? You said because the material's not good enough?
Exactly, because I think plastic material like degrades, its strength and its components kind of degrade as you try to reuse it. So yeah, it doesn't have the structural integrity anymore. And it is also because of money. As I previously stated, recycled plastic costs a lot more than virgin plastic.
That's so interesting, because I think most people will think if they recycle a plastic bottle, for example, they'll think that will be made into a new plastic bottle, which isn't the case. And actually, like, I'm quite annoyed learning that my plastic bottle doesn't become another plastic bottle. That makes absolutely no sense.
No, it doesn't. And unfortunately, there isn't much solution unless like our Europe or UK invests in infrastructure to actually process recycling on site and not ship it off. But also, I feel like you are starting to feel a little guilty now hearing all this information.
Yeah, thanks for dragging me down, Marie. I really regret having that milkshake. Which brings up another massive issue, that the entire like plastic industry and the recycling industry says it's all up to us. Yeah, which is not fair.
Exactly. And it's not true. They're the ones causing the problems. And now they're saying, oh, no, you need to recycle. You need to solve the problems we caused.
Hashtag recycling is not the solution, everyone.
And so, yeah, that's another like major issue. Like all the ad campaigns, all the stuff you see, like I saw a YouTube ad the other day as well, where it was just it's like, make sure you recycle. It's up to you to save our planet. No, it's up to you to stop making harmful crap. Like,
that was so sassy, Marie. So sassy. But you know what?
Very sassy.
You will start to see more of this from brands, especially now with COP26 that's happened and the IPCC report. Brands are going to jump on the quickest solution. Not all brands, hashtag not all brands, but a lot of them will go straight on to this is made with 23% recycled polyester. I'm looking at you, H&M. So like that's
a whole other topic.
Yeah, another topic. But basically you will start to see it more, and I think if we're more aware of it, we can see through them, basically. It's not the solution, it really isn't.
The question is, should we stop recycling altogether?
Well, from what you've said, I don't want to recycle anymore. But then what do we do? I mean, like you said, it's not all up to us, but what can we do? Do we see, I'm very much like, I will try and avoid plastic like the plague. Because even though it says this can be recycled, I don't think it's working. But then it's like, oh, I'm like cutting things out of my life based on plastic.
Yeah, so it is complicated. That's the moral of the story. But we shouldn't stop altogether. Definitely keep recycling our glass, our cardboard, or aluminium. Aluminium is actually one of the most easiest materials to recycle. So that's usually should be like your default.
Yes.
Like if you
so for example, if like you had like a tin of beans, humble Heinz beans in the UK, I washed it out, I recycled it. Do you reckon that will then be made into an aluminium can again?
I think so. I do need to, if I get this wrong, we'll correct it on our Instagram. But I think that is the case because aluminium is very easy to recycle. It's one of the, if not, we'll post a little correction on our Instagram. And as you said, one solution is, of course, to cut down. Remember the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Many people don't realize that those are actually in an order for a reason. These are order of preference. So you should first reduce, then you should reuse, then you should recycle. Recycling should be your last option.
Last resort.
Exactly, but it's somehow become our default. Someone the other day said to me, "Oh, I'm sustainable. I recycle."
Well done. Do you want an award? Sorry, we don't shame on this podcast.
No. Everything it's like some people, that's the reason we're doing this podcast, because some people don't actually realize the problems. And
exactly, but that's what they're telling us. They're telling us that be sustainable, recycle. And actually, I think the first thing people will think of with sustainability is recycling. How has that happened? Why have they told us that? It's not true. You're completely right. And that's so interesting. That is the order of things. Reduce, avoid plastic if you can.
And I think especially our generation, I've always recycled. Like we've always had like a recycling bin in our classroom at school. Like we always did it at home, but no one actually told us why. It just was one of those things. Oh, paper goes into the blue bin, and that's all we did. But we never actually they never actually sat us down and say, okay, this is important.
It's as big of a habit as brush your teeth in the morning and evening. Just do it. Like that's how it's, I think, been for this generation, which is crazy. Sorry, I say crazy a lot on this podcast because a lot of this it's mind-blowing, and it's really interesting learning all of this stuff. I do feel like I'm getting the inside scoop. So what can we do then? So we can reduce our plastic, but what if there's no way of getting around that? What if, like, for example, a lot of medical-based equipment and stuff, like a plaster, a lot of that is plastic. How do you kind of get around that?
There are biodegradable plasters. I think especially when it comes to like medical stuff, I think that is one of the ones where we just have to kind of accept it, because like one thing you cannot deny, plastic is an amazing material.
Yes, this is not a plastic hating show. You're completely right. It's a great durable material we can do so much with. It's got such a negative connotation at the moment.
Especially in the medical industry, because it's just so, like, you can easily disinfect plastic. That's one of the massive benefits. Hardly anyone has allergies to it. So it's, again, a good material to use. So I think that area is like a bit out of our control. So as we said, this shouldn't all be up to us. So what is the actual solution to this problem? And the solution is, and it's something that I'm going to be mentioning a lot on this podcast, because I am also advocating for it to be in place in the fashion industry. And that is EPRs, Extended Producer Responsibility. The idea behind EPRs is essentially that the producer takes full responsibility for their product. We need to introduce smart, targeted bans that will lead into real changes. Essentially, the pay to pollute principle.
Yes.
And the EPR laws shift the responsibility away from us, the consumer, and put it back on the company, the ones that are actually polluting us.
Yeah. Which is completely right. They can't expect us to do everything. That's what's happening right now, and it's just not working.
Exactly. One of the quotes that I always like to reference is from a TED Talk by David Gatz. And he said, "The last thing we need to do is clean the oceans," which sounds like a crazy statement. But as he argues, we can clean the oceans all we like, but if we keep dumping plastic into it, it doesn't have an effect. So that, cleaning up, it should be our last our last point. We should stop the massive flow that is causing our pollution. So EPRs are cited in the European Climate Action Plan. I'm not exactly sure how detailed or how big of a part they play because I actually can't find this action plan anywhere, but I know that they're in there. I know that there are EPRs in place for packaging in most countries, but it's definitely still not enough. In the US, they don't have in place at all. And I think there is a bill on the table that will probably lead to change that. But this is why it's also very important to vote for representatives and lawmakers who advocate for EPRs and understand the importance for EPRs.
Yeah. And is there anything else we can do to push the importance of EPRs and actually get them in place?
Letter writing campaigns, like writing the company in person as well, saying that this is important to us, but also like picking up the phone and calling your representatives, and telling them that like EPRs are important to you. And using your voice. Voting is essential, but also like keep sending letters to your like local council or anyone who represents you, like letting your voice be heard, letting them know that this is important to you. Protesting is another big thing, but of course I always get very annoyed when I see environmental protests because sometimes the rubbish that is left behind is just
that's so ironic,
so
isn't it?
It's so ironic and so stupid. So like, please also be respectful when you protest. Don't create more mess. Sometimes I see like bins overflowing with like save the planet signs. And I'm like,
oh, that's such an ironic image, isn't it?
It is. It's just such an ironic image. But it's another big thing, like protesting, going to COP26 just happened, but COP27 events outside and letting everyone know that EPRs is something that's important to you. It is something that we desperately need. And I'm just like, not just saying like in the plastic industry, like in the fashion industry, like I am pushing for these to be in place because they are so important. Producers need to take responsibility for what they make. It's kind of
that is the solution. It's not this polyester is made from 23% recycled materials. It's take responsibility for what happens afterwards. I think I've said to you before, like every object that is now introduced into my life, it's like I have a child. I feel so responsible for that object. It's stressful. And that's how these big companies should feel. They should feel like they're putting millions and millions of children onto the planet. They're responsible for them. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. So is there anything else we can do in terms of recycling? Because recycling is still very complicated, very confusing. Like you said, wish recycling, we all suffer from it. What are the clear facts? What are the do's and don'ts with recycling that we do know?
Yep. Well, you mentioned the first one, stop wish recycling. If you're unsure if it can be recycled, the best thing to do is put it in the normal bin. Because if you put it in the recycling bin and it can't be recycling, that leads to contamination. Because the people who are collecting our recycling, if they see a contaminated bin of recycling, they're just going to move on. These facilities don't have the infrastructure, don't have the workforce. If they just see one contamination in one recycling bin, they're just going to throw it out. All of that recycling is going to go to the landfill because you put that one item in there that cannot be recycled because they do not have the time to take it out. So
even if you've done your bit and recycled properly, if one person doesn't do it right, it just all goes to shit, basically.
And this is another one. Please do this. Me and my mom argue about this every single time, but please wash your recycling before you throw it out.
Marie's mom, I hope you're listening.
Like, honestly, we had such a big argument about this the last time I lived in Ireland. It's why I moved. No, it didn't. Anyway.
I just think of it like this. If you were giving someone back a plate that they'd given you food on, you wouldn't give it to them dirty, would you? You'd clean it and give it back to them. If you're giving something back to someone to recycle and do you a favour, clean it. They don't want some like baked bean residue at the bottom of their tin. That's gross. Don't be gross. Wash your recycling.
That is a great point. Like, yeah, view it like that. That is like a good perspective.
You're giving a present to the recycling industry. Giving them a gift. Don't like give them messy shit. That's awful. Don't do that. No shame, but just don't do it.
No, don't. I mean, like another system that has like a closed loop system is Lush. And every time I bring back my pots, they look so surprised. They're like, oh, they're so nice and clean. What do you mean? People don't clean them? It's just
also, they're so easy to clean. They're literally just really simple black pots. And a lot of Lush stuff I find is like, it's quite thick. So yeah. And you know what? Lush is a great example because if you bring back 5 or so pots, you get a free face mask. Like me and my family are brilliant. So we get a lot of Lush stuff. My mum then saves in her little cupboard all the Lush packaging. And then if I'm like, Mum, I need to get someone a present, she's like, here's 5 Lush pots, get them a face mask. So that's why I get all my friends' face masks, if you're listening, is because Mum saves the pots up. It's absolutely brilliant. Or it's like, oh, I fancy a treat. Mum gives me 5 pots to recycle. It's brilliant. So yeah, Lush is a fantastic example of more of a closed loop system. And they've put that in place from the start because they've designed their packaging to be super simple and easy to wash out and then recycle again.
Yeah, and then another one, like another big mistake people do, happens more with single stream recycling. So, for example, if you have like a cereal box, don't put stuff into the cereal box. Don't stuff it full.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because again, at the recycling facility, they do not have time to pull everything apart. Keep everything separate. Flatten your cardboard boxes so nothing can fall in. Flatten your milk cartons, your juice cartons, again, to preserve space, but it's also like for cardboard boxes to stop stuff falling in there. Another important step that people don't know. Take the lid off is another thing. Sometimes the lid is made of a different plastic than the actual thing. So, for example, like yogurt pots, they have the plastic foil on it. Take the plastic foil off.
Usually these say on the packaging, if you're lucky, it says lid not recyclable, carton recycle. So if there is information, try and look for it on the packaging. Hopefully it's clear.
Another big important one is check with your local municipality to see what can be recycled, because we mentioned the numbers before. So if you look at the bottom of any of your like plastic containers, you will probably see the little recycling triangle with a number in it. Those numbers actually mean something.
What? This is the first.
Yeah, those numbers actually mean something, and they're also very confusing. So in general, numbers 1 and 2 can be recycled and are widely accepted by anyone. And those are also the ones that I think fall into the high value plastic category.
Yes.
Those are the ones that can always be recycled. The other ones fall into a bit of a gray area, which is, great.
Are they the less valuable plastics that you were saying about?
They're the less valuable plastics. They're also sometimes mixed plastics, which also leads to normal recycling centers not knowing how to handle them.
So always look out for 1 and 2. 1 and 2.
Yeah. So 1 and 2 eggs are the good. Number 3 is rarely accepted, hardly can be recycled. Number 4 is also rarely accepted, can't be recycled. Number 5, sometimes accepted, can sometimes be recycled. Number 6, no. Number 7 is other. Like number 7 stands for other. It's usually the ones that they really don't know. It's usually where bioplastic also falls into. So it also rarely and never recycled. So check with your local recycling center.
Something you could do as well, which actually I think I'm going to do after this, is I'm either going to keep like a note on my phone or print it out and put it on my fridge. So like I can quickly cross-reference, because my memory's awful. I will forget. I can go, oh, this is a 3. This can't be recycled. So yeah, kind of help yourself out.
I mean, it is so funny. When I had the argument with my mom, the next day I looked at our bin and I realized there was like a magnet stuck on there telling you to wash your recycling. And I was just like, I was right. Like it's written there. Like like we got this magnet from the recycling center. Like it's telling you to wash your recycling and what goes into the recycling and what can be recycled and what can't be recycled. It's on the magnet. Read the magnet, Mom.
Read the magnet, Mom.
Yeah. Another like big mistake is takeout containers. Don't recycle pizza boxes. Anything with grease on it cannot be recycled.
That's
again,
such a myth, isn't it? That I've recently discovered. You're right. Like pizza boxes, you just see cardboard and go, great, I can enjoy this pizza. This will be recycled. You're so right. Like anything that has residue or grease that you can't clean, so it's not a Lush pot, you can't clean it out, it's not good. Like you said, contamination. And I think so many people are still in the dark about pizza boxes. It's such a lie, isn't it?
Another big one is napkins. and paper towels, like because people
Napkins.
think they have like paper in the title, they can be recycled. When my family was here over Easter, I pulled out so many paper napkins from the recycling because they kept just chucking in them. That is, by the way, something that I do. I go through people's recycling and make sure it's right. I was known to do that in university.
So if you see someone rustling through your bin, don't be alarmed. It's just Marie.
I was known for doing that in university. It drove me crazy because in university we had the normal bin and right next to it we had the paper bin, and people still put paper into the normal bin. And it's just like, I would like honestly like root through the trash, and it would stress me out so much. And also because we were a very small course, I knew exactly who it was.
Because you're rooting through the bin.
Yeah. And I just still remember like this one time I came in and like one of my friends was like, Marie, do not look at the bin. I will sort it out. I know it will just stress you out, because they knew I was having already a bad day. They were just like, just go to your desk.
This
Do
will
not
tip
look at the bin.
over the ice.
I will sort it out, because yeah, I am that type of person. Like
So
sometimes as well, like I have to say, like I do, like I'm not perfect. I do sometimes get defeated, and I just see it and I'm like, I do not have the energy to deal with that right now.
Of course,
and
you know what? Slogan for the podcast, we're all human. It's fine. Like we said, the system is broken, the infrastructure's not there, the education's not there. We can't be expected to do everything. We can only do as much as we can. And some days, like I was said with the milkshake, and I felt incredibly guilty. And now I'm going to remember that and go, right, okay, I know what to do next time. Also, it's a milkshake. Go have a milkshake if you want sometimes. It's fine. We're not going to kill turtles by having one milkshake, I hope. So yeah, don't be guilty. Just do as much as you can and learn, which is what we're here for. We're here to share in this guilt and learn and grow together, because repeat it after me, we're all on a journey. Anyway, we're talking about napkins.
Yeah, slogan for Two Girls Reusable Cup. We're all on a journey. But yeah, napkins is like one of the like main ones, I think, because people think it's like paper. It has in the title.
Yeah,
like,
and the best thing you can do actually is before they give you a napkin, if you go out and get something, just say, "Oh no, I'm all right for a napkin." Because I know what I mean. You'll put it in your bag and go, "I'll use this later," and you won't. You'll have all these napkins in your bags for like years and years. I'm talking about myself.
I mean, as someone who like has a lot of mental breakdowns and cries in public a lot, it is quite handy to have those napkins in my bag.
At least you're using them.
Yeah, exactly. But for food in general, I always carry around a cloth napkin. I just use that. So that is a solution that I found. I also switched my mom to cloth napkins recently. And with napkins, sometimes they're compostable. So that's another thing. Like check if you can put your napkins into the composter, because that is better alternative. But again, if you're not sure, put it in the normal bin.
Yes.
At least now, Beth, you know, when you got that plastic milkshake container, you should have checked the number to see what plastic it was.
Yes.
But I don't think, because was it quite thin?
It was quite thin. It was typical plastic milkshake cup with the dome lid. So I don't think it would have been a 1 or 2. It was quite...
Yeah.
I think the other thing you could do is when you go and recycle something, make a note of what kind of things you are throwing out. Because usually, I mean, I don't know if anyone else like this, I usually have like a set kind of meal plan for the week, just so I'm using everything up and I know what to buy when we go food shopping. So I've noticed I'm throwing very like the same kind of plastic out. Make a note of it and then challenge yourself next time you go food shopping to see if you can find an alternative with less plastic or no plastic at all, if you can afford it and if you have the time to go out and do that. Something I'm doing next week is Greenpeace and Everyday Plastic are doing a campaign called the Big Plastic Count, where you sign up, you print off a tally, and then you basically tally all the different plastics that you throw out at home and while you're out, or recycle. And it's basically to give governments and brands data on how much plastic and what plastic we're all throwing out, because actually there's very limited data on it. And I think if we can identify what people are throwing out, brands, supermarkets, the government can start to make changes with the evidence we're like giving them. So I mean, the podcast will probably come out in the future when this is over, but that doesn't stop you from doing your own big plastic count. Like, just get some paper or just get your phone and tally up what you're throwing out and see if you can make little changes. That's kind of my little life hack that we can add to the list as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. And I think we're going to start doing that on our Instagram as well. Track your trash.
Yes, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, because that is also something I started doing at first, like seeing like, what can I substitute? Like one of my first swaps was shampoo, where I swapped from like plastic bottle shampoo to a bar shampoo. So that was like one of my first swaps. Shampoo bars are sometimes a little bit to be desired, but I have short hair now, so it's easier to manage than when I had really long hair. Like that's the only time when I actually noticed it, because before the pandemic, I actually had short hair and then I grew it out for the pandemic. And that's when I kind of noticed, shampoo bars aren't really cutting it with like really long, thick hair like I have. But
you've
like,
got to do what kind of also works for you and what you can afford and what's accessible to you. I think
exactly, like do what's in your scope, like what you can manage.
I, for example, probably should have mentioned this at the start. Sustainable fail. I'm suffering at the moment from a bit of eczema at the back of my hair, and I've been prescribed a special shampoo to clear it up, which has worked really well. But the shampoo bottle is full on plastic, which I will now look at the bottom to see what number it has on it, which was so annoying because I've been using shampoo bars. They've been working for me, but I've got this problem, so I've had to stick it out and use a plastic bottle. You know what? That's fine. There's no other solution to that. I would rather use that than have flaky, horrible skin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I suffer from dandruff, so occasionally I do need to use dandruff shampoo because otherwise there's a lot of flakage going on.
Yeah. We're very flaky people.
And it was fine, like in the pandemic where I'm not interacting with anyone, but like after a while I'm just like, that looks a bit dodgy. I should probably like sort it out.
So do what's accessible to you. Don't feel guilty. And hopefully all this stuff we've talked about, we're sharing education that you can take on and move forward with it how you wish. But as if we can all do something, it's better than us all being in the dark at the end of the day.
In conclusion, plastic production is expected to triple in 2050. So,
ouch.
Yes, it is scary. Remember the 3 R's. They're in that order for a reason. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Try your best. It is a minefield. I know sometimes it does keep me up at night. For example, I mentioned the bins here in Portugal. Like, I don't have the underground ones. I just have the normal containers. But when they empty them out, they sometimes do not put them in the right order. So,
they really just want to mess with you.
Exactly. So I once, without like looking, just went to like the one on the far right, thinking it is the plastic one. Turns out it was the glass one. And I'm just like shuddered. I was like, oh no, like, what do I do?
Did you go digging through the bin like you usually do? Come back.
I can't, because it's just like a little hole.
Oh no.
So I couldn't like dive into the bin. I couldn't take it out. Like once it was in there, the damage is done. And it did keep me up at night. Like honestly, like that's the type of person I am. I kept just thinking like, oh my God, there's paper in the glass. There's paper in the glass. But yeah,
don't be like Marie. Don't let this keep you up at night.
Thank you for joining us. I think we had a blast. I mean, didn't think
this was an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah,
like, you brought us down and then brought us back up again.
I think that's just who I am as a person. I'll bring people down and I'll say, no, it's not all bad. So, yeah. Thank you for joining us today. You can follow our sustainable journey on our socials. We have Twitter and Instagram at 2 Girls, 1 Reusable Cup. If you enjoyed hearing our voices, share with your friends. It really helps us out a lot. See you next week for more sustainable shenanigans.
See you next time. Bye.